Welcome to Coffee Break. Thoughtful conversations for a busy world. Let's begin.
Okay, I want you to close your eyes for a second. Well, obviously keep them open if you're driving or, operating heavy machinery.
Please do.
But if you can, just take a second. I want you to try and summon a very specific feeling. It's that heavy, cold sensation in the pit of your stomach that just whispers, I am behind.
Oh, yeah. I know that one.
You know the one, right? It's that gnawing sense that the to-do list is just reproducing like rabbits, way faster than you can possibly cross things off.
Mm-hmm.
It's the feeling of ending a 12-hour day, collapsing onto the couch and thinking, I didn't actually get the main thing done.
The one thing that actually mattered.
The one thing. And then almost inevitably comes the fantasy. The universal bargain we all try to make with the universe.
If I just had
2 more hours in the day, just 2, I could get on top of this. I could finally breathe.
It is the universal modern mantra, isn't it? If I just had more time. It's the promise we make to ourselves every single time we buy a new planner or download a new productivity app.
Or set the alarm for 5 a.m. instead of 6:30 a.m.
Yes, exactly. We are so convinced that the missing ingredient in our lives, the thing standing between us and, peace of mind, is strictly a resource shortage. Specifically, a shortage of minutes on the clock.
Okay, I hear what you're saying about the feeling in the pit of the stomach, but I have to push back a little right at the start here.
Go for it.
Because sometimes it really is a supply chain issue, isn't it? I mean, if I have 10 hours of legitimate work to do stuff that actually puts food on the table and only 8 hours in the workday, that's just math.
Sure.
That's not a feeling, that's a deficit. So when we start this deep dive by saying time isn't the problem, are we gaslighting ourselves? Are we telling people who are genuinely drowning that they're just imagining the water?
That is a very, very valid pushback. And logically, you're absolutely right. If you have to be in 2 physical places at once, physics is the problem, not your mindset.
Right.
But the source we are looking at today, this breakdown from QofeBreak 052, is arguing something a little subtler and frankly a lot more uncomfortable. It's arguing that we are, by and large, terrible at judging why we have 10 hours of work in the first place.
So it's not about the clock, it's about how the tasks even got on the list to begin with.
Precisely. It's about what I'd call the input valve. We are obsessed, absolutely obsessed with our processing speed. How fast can I work? How many hacks can I use? Can I listen to podcasts at 2x speed to get more information in?
Guilty.
We all are. But the source argues that if your input valve, which is really just your expectations, is broken and stuck open, no amount of processing speed is going to save you.
You can't outrun a broken valve.
You can't. You could have a supercomputer for a brain, but if you feed it an infinite loop of tasks, it's still going to crash. It's inevitable.
Okay, so we're not talking about time management today. We're talking about what? Input management, expectation management.
We're talking about the illusion of time. And the mission, the specific mission for this deep dive, is to prove that relief, that deep, soul-cleansing exhale you're craving, is biologically impossible to achieve through better scheduling.
That's a bold claim.
It is. It doesn't come from hacking your productivity. The source says it comes from a fundamental structural change in the pressure we put on ourselves.
So we're going to dismantle the whole idea of optimizing your life. We're going to look at why doing less, and I want to be clear, I don't mean doing less work necessarily.
Right. Not about being lazy.
But holding fewer heavy expectations is actually a massive strategic advantage. But before we get to the solution, we have to really, really understand the diagnosis. Why is more time such a dangerous trap?
Well, let's look at the source's boldest statement right out of the gate. It says, most people aren't failing because they lack time. They're overwhelmed by trying to do too much.
It sounds so simple when you say it like that.
It sounds simple, but let's really parse that. When we feel overwhelmed, our brain, our lizard brain, interprets it as, I don't have enough time to do X, Y, and Z. But the source is asking us to stop and look at X, Y, and Z. Why are those specific things on the list in the first place? And why do they all have to be done now? And maybe more importantly, why do they all have to be done perfectly?
So it's an allocation problem, but it's based on faulty premises.
Exactly.
But I still go back to that fantasy. If I magically granted you those 2 extra hours we talked about, let's just say, the day is now 26 hours long, a 26-hour day, what would you actually do with them? Be honest.
Yeah, that's the question.
Would you sit on the porch and drink tea? Would you sleep more? Would you just stare at a wall?
Statistically
Yeah.
and personally, absolutely not.
Well, wait.
You would fill them instantly.
Right. I'd probably say, oh, great, now I have time to finally start that side hustle, or now I can actually train for that marathon I've been putting off for 5 years.
Exactly. And this is the trap. The mental trap is that we believe time is a container that once filled, we will stop filling. We think it's like a bucket.
Okay.
But the source makes this fascinating comparison here. It suggests that human nature, especially in our current culture, behaves more like a gas.
A gas, like helium? What does that mean?
Think about basic physics. A liquid, like water, has a fixed volume. If you pour a cup of water into a bucket, it just stays a cup of water. It sits at the bottom.
Yeah.
It doesn't magically become a bucket full of water.
Sure.
But a gas expands to fill the entirety of whatever container it's in, no matter how big.
And our expectations are a gas.
Our expectations are a gas.
So if I give you a bigger container, that 26-hour day, the work, the pressure, the shoulds, they just expand to touch all the new edges.
Immediately, without fail. Let's play this out. Let's say a genie grants you 2 extra hours every single morning from 5:00 to 7:00 a.m. Total silence. No emails. The entire world is paused just for you.
That sounds like actual heaven. I would read, I would meditate, I would just breathe.
You say that now. We all say that now. But looking at the psychological data the source alludes to.
Same.
Okay, day 1, you read. Day 2, maybe you meditate. By day 3, you're looking at that pile of laundry in the corner.
Oh, no.
You're thinking about that side project you haven't started. You start thinking, well, I have this extra time. I should really use it. I should use it to get ahead. It would be irresponsible not to.
Ah, I see the trap. The should sneaks in. It always does.
The should is the gas. And suddenly those 2 beautiful silent hours aren't leisure anymore. They are production slots.
Right. They're on the clock.
They're on the clock. And because you are now doing more, your baseline for what is normal to accomplish in a day shifts up. You haven't gained any time. You've just raised your quota.
So you end up with the exact same density of pressure, just spread over a longer day.
Yes. The underlying equation hasn't changed because the variable causing the stress isn't the clock. It's the expectations.
There's a quote from the source that I really want to unpack here. They're overwhelmed by trying to do too much. It seems so obvious, but we treat trying to do too much as a virtue.
We do.
Or at least a necessity. We don't view it as a choice. We view it as, well, what do you want me to do? I have to do all this.
And that is precisely where the illusion lives. We've convinced ourselves that our workload is a fixed, non-negotiable constant, and that time is the variable we need to manipulate.
When in reality?
In reality, the source argues that time is the fixed constant. We all get the same 24 hours. And the workload, or rather the expectation of the workload, is the variable we refuse to touch.
This explains the exhaustion that no schedule can fix. I mean, I know I've done this, and I'm sure you listening have done this exact same thing. You feel overwhelmed, so you go buy the new planner.
Or the new app that promises to solve everything.
Yes. You try time blocking, you color code your Google Calendar, you organize your life down to the minute, and for about 3 days, you feel completely in control. You feel like a genius.
I've cracked the code.
And then by day 4, you are just as exhausted, just as behind as you were before, maybe even more so because now you feel guilty for failing at your new system.
Because you tried to solve an emotional and psychological problem with a logistical solution. That is a fundamental mismatch. It's like trying to fix a leaky pipe with a hammer.
You're using the wrong tool.
Completely. Planners manage logistics. They manage where your body needs to be and what your hands need to be doing. But they do not and cannot manage the emotional weight of carrying those tasks.
Right.
And the source makes this really crucial distinction here between being busy and being overwhelmed.
Oh, I like that. Let's dig into that. What's the difference? Because to me, they often feel like the exact same thing. If I'm busy, I'm overwhelmed.
Not necessarily. Busy is a logistical state. It's a statement of fact. It means you have a high volume of tasks. You can be busy and be completely happy.
Like when you're in a state of flow.
Exactly. You can be busy and totally energized doing work you love. Overwhelmed, on the other hand, is an emotional state. Overwhelm happens when the perceived demand exceeds your perceived resources to cope.
Perceived demand exceeds perceived resources.
Yes. It's that heavy, crushing feeling that you are inevitably going to fail. You can be overwhelmed while doing absolutely nothing, just staring at a wall, because the weight of what you think you should be doing is crushing you from the inside.
That hits home. The idea that I can be sitting on the couch, technically resting, but my brain is just running a marathon of guilt and anxiety about what I'm not doing in that moment. That is overwhelm.
Precisely. And no amount of color coding your calendar is ever going to fix that feeling. If you reorganize your calendar, but you don't remove the underlying pressure that says you must do all of this to be worthy or successful or good, you're just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
The ship is still sinking under the weight of the cargo.
The ship is still sinking.
So if the problem isn't the schedule, it's the cargo. It's the weight we are carrying. The source calls this the architecture of pressure. And specifically, it talks about hidden expectations. What does that mean? Hidden.
This is a really subtle but powerful part of the source material. Hidden expectations from family, work, and social pressure. Why are they hidden? Because very, very rarely does someone walk up to you and hand you a written list of demands. Nobody gives you a contract that says, number 1, be a CEO-level performer at work. Number 2, be a perfectly present and patient parent. Number 3, have six-pack abs. Number 4, maintain a spotless house. Number 5, read 50 books a year.
If they did, you'd laugh in their face. You'd say, this is impossible. I am one person. This is ridiculous.
Exactly. You'd recognize it as absurd. But because the list isn't written down, because it's absorbed through culture, through social media, through subtle comments from family, through our own internal insecurities, we don't question it. We just internalize it.
We create a hidden contract with ourselves that says we have to do all of these things all at once.
And we have to do them well.
It's the everything to everyone trap. The source specifically mentions the pressure to be everything to everyone. And for the entrepreneurs listening, or the working parents, or really anyone with ambition, this is the absolute killer. It's the geometry of it that just doesn't work.
It's a geometric impossibility. I mean, think about the shape of your focus. If you are pointing your focus in one direction, let's say you are in a deep work phase building your business.
You're all in.
You're all in. You are, by definition, not pointing your focus at your social life. If you are 100% focused on being the emotional support for your family during a crisis, you are, by definition, not 100% focused on optimizing your fitness routine.
You can be.
But the trap is that we try to be a circle. We try to encompass everything simultaneously with equal intensity.
The source calls this the pressure to be everything to everyone. I want to slow down here because this is where I think the burnout actually lives. It's not in the tasks themselves, it's in the switching. The constant whiplash-inducing switching.
Right. It's what the source calls the simultaneity problem.
Picture this, and I'm sure this is familiar to so many people. You're on a Zoom call, you're trying to be the killer executive, you're sharp, you're focused, you're presenting the Q3 numbers, then your door opens, and your 3-year-old walks in holding a broken toy, and they're crying.
And instantly in a microsecond, the expectation shifts. You have to switch from killer executive to patient, loving parent.
In the blink of an eye, and if you don't do it perfectly...
Guilt. Massive guilt. If you ignore the kid for a second, you feel like you're a bad parent. If you get distracted from the meeting, you feel like you're a bad employee.
There's no way to win.
There is no way to win. And the source argues that we're trying to hold both of those shapes at once. We're trying to do the circle and the square simultaneously. It feels like a physical tearing sensation inside your brain.
That tearing sensation is the energy leak. It has to be.
It absolutely is. The source describes this invisible weight as being like a background app running on your phone. You know how your battery drains even when the screen is off?
Because the GPS is tracking you, or it's refreshing in the background.
Exactly. The expectation to be available and perfect in all roles at all times is the GPS. It is draining your neurological battery 24/7, even when you are technically sitting on the couch staring at the wall.
So you aren't doing the work, but you are carrying the weight of the work.
Yes. This explains why you feel so profoundly tired, even when you haven't physically exerted yourself. The mental load of maintaining the facade that you can be everything to everyone consumes a massive amount of glucose in the brain. It is exhausting work to pretend to be superhuman.
Exhausting work to pretend to be superhuman.
Well,
that is, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it right there. And it leads us directly into the next layer of this whole problem, which the source identifies as the optimization trap. This is the modern obsession with not just doing things, but doing them optimally.
This is a relatively new phenomenon, historically speaking. The source calls it trying to optimize every part of life at once. It really used to be that if you had a job and you fed your family and you were a decent person, you were doing great.
That was the bar.
That was the bar. Now, thanks to the information age, We know exactly what optimal looks like in every single domain of human existence.
I think we need to talk about where this optimization impulse comes from. Because, my grandfather didn't track his sleep. He just slept.
Yeah.
If he woke up tired, he drank coffee. He didn't check his recovery score and then spiral into anxiety because his HRV was low.
Exactly. He didn't have the data. The source points to the information age as this double-edged sword. On one hand, it's amazing. On the other, we now have perfect information. We have the blueprint for the optimal human life.
We have the blueprint for the perfect morning routine, the perfect diet, the perfect workout split, the perfect investment portfolio. It's not enough to just eat lunch anymore.
No.
It has to be a macro-balanced, intermittent fasting compliant, gut health optimized meal that you probably meal prepped on Sunday.
And if it isn't, you feel like you're failing. It's not enough to just exercise. You have to be tracking your zone 2 cardio and your progressive overload and your VO2 max.
And because we know what optimal looks like, anything less than optimal feels like a conscious choice to fail. That's the heavy part.
That is the burden of knowledge.
It is. If I eat a burger for lunch, I'm not just eating a burger. I am consciously choosing inflammation. I am consciously choosing to be suboptimal.
Exactly. Every single action has a moral weight attached to it now. And the source calls this the optimization trap. We are trying to apply the logic of a machine, maximum efficiency, zero waste, constant output, to a messy biological organism.
And biological organisms need waste. We need downtime. We need inefficiency to recover.
But we've demonized inefficiency. We've turned resting into recovery, which is just work in disguise. It's another thing to optimize.
It's so true. I'm not napping. I'm optimizing my adenosine levels for second-half productivity.
I hate how accurate that is. And listen, taken individually, none of those things are bad. That's the tricky part of this.
Right. Wanting to be healthy is good.
Of course. We look at each optimization, we say, well, that makes sense. I want to be healthy. I want to be productive. I want to be a good parent. The error, the source says, lies in simultaneity. The error lies in trying to optimize every part of life at once.
Simultaneity. That's the key word, isn't it?
It's everything. You are trying to peak in your career, peak in your fitness, peak in your parenting, and peak in your intellectual development all in the same quarter. That is not how elite performance works in any field.
That's a great point.
An Olympic athlete does not try to launch a startup 2 months before the games. A CEO in the middle of a massive merger does not usually decide that's the best time to train for their first Ironman.
They periodize their focus. They have seasons.
They have seasons. But we, the general public, try to do it all at once, all the time.
And when we inevitably fail, because again, physics, we don't blame the strategy. We don't sit back and say, oh, I took on way too much. We blame ourselves. We say, I need better time management, or I need more discipline.
Which leads right back to the feeling of needing more time to fix the failure.
Yeah.
It's a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. And there is a massive accelerant pouring gasoline on this fire every single day, which the source identifies as comparison culture.
Comparison culture and invisible pressure. This is the part where we have to talk about how we view other people's lives. Because I think this is where so many of the hidden expectations actually come from. We see what everyone else is doing, or more accurately, what they say they are doing online, and we use that to build our own personal scorecard.
But the data we are using to build that scorecard is completely corrupted. It's junk data. We are comparing our behind-the-scenes, our messy, tired, unoptimized reality with everyone else's perfectly curated highlight reel.
We've all heard that phrase before, highlight reel, but let's really drill down into how that specifically inflates our expectations. Because it's not just about jealousy, it's deeper and more insidious than that.
Okay, think about your Instagram or your LinkedIn feed. You scroll for 5 minutes, you see person A, who just got a massive promotion and is, humbled and excited and crushing it at work.
Yeah.
You scroll down. Person B just ran a marathon and looks amazing in the photo. Scroll down. Person C is baking these incredible, intricate sourdough loaves with their perfectly behaved children in a spotless kitchen.
Always a spotless kitchen.
Always. Scroll down. Person D is reading a book a week and posting these incredibly insightful reviews.
And what the brain does in that 5 minutes is?
The brain aggregates them. It doesn't see them as 4 separate people making 4 separate choices. The brain creates a composite avatar of a successful human.
Oh, wow.
And this avatar, this Frankenstein's monster of success, has person A's career, person D's body, person C's domestic skills, and person D's intellect. And then subconsciously you look in the mirror and you say, why aren't I doing that? You decide you must do all of those things to be acceptable.
That is profound. We are literally trying to keep up with a fictional character that doesn't actually exist in the real world.
A character we built ourselves out of other people's wins.
Because person A might be crushing it at work, but their marriage is falling apart. Person B might be running marathons, but they're deeply in debt. We don't see the trade-offs other people are making.
We never see the trade-offs.
Yeah.
We only see the wins. Every choice to optimize one area of life requires a sacrifice in another. That is the fundamental law of finite resources: time, energy, attention.
But comparison culture hides the sacrifices.
It hides the sacrifices.
Yeah.
It only shows the trophies. So we end up holding ourselves to this standard that is statistically impossible for a single human being to achieve. And that leads us to the emotional toll the source highlights: perfectionism.
The emotional weight of perfectionism. I'm glad the source distinguishes this, because a lot of people, especially high achievers, say, I'm not a perfectionist, I just have high standards. But there's a real difference, isn't there?
A massive, massive difference. High standards are about the work. You want the work to be good because you care about quality, you care about the craft. It's internally driven. Perfectionism is about you. It's about your ego. It's about the fear of how you will be perceived by others if you drop a ball. It's a defensive mechanism. It's a shield.
A shield against what?
A shield against criticism. A shield against shame. The logic is, if I do everything perfectly, nobody can criticize me, and I won't have to feel that horrible feeling of being judged as not good enough.
So high standards are internal, I want this to be good, and perfectionism is external, I want people to think I'm good.
Yes, and the source points out that this perfectionism acts as a powerful barrier to prioritization. This is the crucial link back to our time problem. If you are a perfectionist, you cannot prioritize effectively.
Wait, unpack that for me. Why does perfectionism stop you from prioritizing? That seems counterintuitive.
Because prioritizing, by its very definition, means deciding that some things are more important than others.
Right.
Which conversely means deciding that some things are less important. It means deliberately, consciously choosing to let some things be average or even bad or simply undone so that the important things can be great.
Okay, I see it now.
But if you are a perfectionist, everything must be perfect. You cannot tolerate any area of your life being suboptimal because that would open you up to criticism. So if everything matters equally, then nothing truly matters. You can't make the strategic cuts needed to save your own sanity.
That is the paralysis. I have felt that so many times. You look at the list and you know you can't do it all, but the idea of just crossing something off, of saying, I'm just not going to do that today, feels like an admission of failure.
It feels like you're failing.
So you try to do it all, you do it all poorly, and you feel like you're failing at everything anyway. You're just spinning plates, and you're terrified that if one drops, the whole audience will boo.
And that terror is what keeps us trapped in the illusion of time. We keep thinking, if I just had more time, I could keep all the plates spinning perfectly. But the solution isn't to spin faster. The solution is to have the courage to put some of the plates down.
Which brings us to the pivot. The strategic pivot. Okay, we've diagnosed the problem in excruciating detail. It's not time, it's the expectations, the optimization trap, the comparison culture, and perfectionism.
That's the diagnosis.
Now, what do we do about it? The source offers a key takeaway that I want to read verbatim because it's so simple, yet it's so hard for most of us to swallow. It says, relief often comes from reducing pressure, not increasing productivity.
Let that sink in for a second. Reducing pressure.
Yeah.
Not increasing productivity.
It goes against everything we are taught. Every business book, every self-help podcast usually is about how to squeeze more juice out of the lemon, how to become a productivity machine. This is saying, stop squeezing.
Or maybe just realize you don't need that much juice in the first place.
But I can hear the listener right now. I can hear the objection because it's popping up in my own head as you say that. Reducing pressure, lowering expectations, that sounds like giving up. That sounds like quiet quitting. That sounds like being lazy. I want to be great. I don't want to be mediocre. How do we square that circle?
And this is the reframe we have to nail. Lowering expectations is not about laziness. It is a strategic choice. It is an act of profound resource management.
Okay.
Think about it like a business. If a company tries to launch 50 new products in 1 year, what's going to happen?
They will all fail. They'll be underfunded, the marketing will be diluted, the quality will be terrible.
Right. The smart CEO comes in and says, cut 45 of them. We're going to focus all of our resources, our money, our best people, our attention on the 5 that matter most. Is that CEO being lazy?
No, they're being ruthless. They're being strategic. They're saving the company from itself.
Exactly. Lowering expectations in non-critical areas is how you free up the energy to actually win in the critical areas. You are not giving up on lice. You are deciding where to deploy your very limited supply of excellence.
So it's about simplification as a strategy. The source talks about practical ways to simplify expectations and focus on what truly matters. Let's make this concrete. What does simplifying expectations actually look like in a real, messy human life?
It means explicitly, consciously deciding not to be good at something for a specific period of time. It means making a contract with yourself.
A contract. I like that.
For example, let's say you are entering a really heavy season at work. A big project is due. You're trying for a promotion. You might sit down and say to yourself, for the next 3 months, my expectation for my house is sanitary, not tidy.
Sanitary, not tidy. That is a brilliant phrase.
It means there might be laundry on the chair. There might be toys on the floor. And when you walk past that pile of laundry, instead of feeling that familiar pang of, I'm feeling I need more time to clean, you actively remind yourself, no, this is part of the plan. I have strategically lowered the expectation for this category to low priority so that I can crush this work project.
You remove the guilt.
You remove the guilt. That's the whole game. The laundry is there either way. But in one scenario, you're beating yourself up about it for 3 months, leaking energy. In the other, you've accepted it as a necessary and temporary trade-off.
The emotional weight is gone.
Precisely. Or take the gourmet chef example. Maybe you usually really value cooking high-quality, from-scratch meals for your family. But you've just had a baby, or you're studying for a big certification exam. You say, for this month, I do not expect myself to be a gourmet chef. Frozen veggies and rotisserie chicken are the standard of excellence.
So you aren't failing at cooking. You are succeeding at prioritizing your newborn or your exam.
You are succeeding at being a sane human being.
It's liberating just hearing you say that out loud. It feels like permission to not be a superhero.
It is permission. But it has to be active. You can't just drift into it because then you will feel guilty. You have to decide. You have to write the contract.
So let's get into the how-to. The source encourages us to focus on what truly matters, which sounds nice, but it's a bit abstract. We need steps. We need a framework. Let's call this the expectation audit. If I'm listening to this right now and I'm ready to stop drowning, what do I do first?
Step 1 is what I call identifying the impossible math. You need to get brutally honest. Take out a piece of paper and write down the list of things you are currently trying to optimize or be great at.
Okay, so work, parenting, being a good spouse, fitness, social life, hobbies, home maintenance, personal finances. The list gets long fast.
It gets really. And then look at that list and acknowledge intellectually that there are not enough hours in the day to be an A+ in all of them simultaneously. Just admit it to yourself. Break the illusion that if I just worked harder or smarter, I could do it all.
Just stare the math in the face. 24 hours minus 8 for sleep, minus 9 for work and commute. You have what, like 7 hours left? You can't fit 10 hours of optimization into 7 hours of life.
You can't. The math is the math. Once you accept the math, you move to step 2, the conscious choice. This is where you have to choose which balls to intentionally drop.
I've heard the analogy of glass balls and rubber balls before, but I think most of us in the moment struggle to tell the difference. Everything feels like glass.
Everything feels like glass. We think everything will shatter if we drop it. The email that just came in, the laundry, the gym session, the report that's due Friday.
It all feels catastrophic if it doesn't get done.
So we need a better litmus test. The source suggests asking a simple question. If I drop this today, what is the repair cost?
Oh, I like that frame. The repair cost.
Let's apply it. If you don't do the dishes tonight, what is the actual repair cost?
10, maybe 15 minutes of extra scrubbing tomorrow morning. And maybe a slightly annoyed spouse.
Low cost. It's a rubber ball. It bounces. Now, what if you miss your daughter's first school play?
That's a core memory. You can't buy that back. The repair cost is a potential for real emotional distance. It's huge.
High cost. That's a glass ball. The problem is, in the heat of the moment, the adrenaline of a work deadline feels like a glass ball. It screams the loudest. But usually that work deadline is a rubber ball. If you miss it by an hour, you send an apology email. The repair cost is a small, temporary hit to your pride.
So the audit is about separating urgency from fragility. What feels urgent versus what is actually fragile.
That's a perfect way to put it. A ringing phone is urgent, but the relationship on the other end might be rubber. A quiet child in the other room is not urgent, but that relationship is absolutely glass.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sold on the theory. but I'm still terrified of the practice. Step 3 is redefining success, but practically. I can't just walk into my boss's office and say, hey, I've decided this report is a rubber ball, so I'm just not doing it.
No, please do not do that.
Right.
That is what we would call a career-limiting move. This isn't about apathy or abdication. It's about negotiation.
So how do we negotiate these expectations without looking like we're lazy or not committed?
You use what I call the resource constraint script. The source hints at this. Instead of saying, I can't do this, you frame it as a resource problem. You go to your boss and say, I have 40 hours of capacity this week. Here are the 60 hours of tasks on my plate. Which of these would you like me to prioritize, and which can we push to next week?
You put the math back on them. You make them a partner in the prioritization.
Exactly. You force them to acknowledge the geometry. And in your personal life, it's an internal negotiation. You say to yourself, I am choosing to have a messy house for the next 3 weeks so that I can finish my degree and create a better future for my family.
You make the contract explicit and temporary.
Explicit and temporary. That's so key. It's not, I'm going to have a messy house forever. It's, for this season, this is the trade-off I am consciously making. It's much easier to lower an expectation if you know it has an expiration date.
And then finally, changing the metric of success at the end of the day.
Yes, this is the last piece. Most of us go to bed at night and we ask ourselves, did I do everything? And the answer will always be no. It's a recipe for feeling like a failure every single night.
So you have to change the question.
You have to change the question. The new question is, did I do the things that matter most?
That shifts the entire focus from volume to value. It's not about how many boxes you checked. It's about which boxes you checked.
And here's the paradox, and I really want the listeners to hear this. The source promises relief, but I would argue it promises better performance too.
How so?
When you stop trying to perform perfectly in all areas, you restore your energy. You stop leaking precious mental energy into guilt and overwhelm and decision fatigue. That recovered energy can then be directed like a laser beam into the 1 or 2 things that actually move the needle. You will likely become better at your job or a better parent once you stop trying to be the perfect everything else.
That directly addresses the biggest fear, which is that if we start pressuring ourselves, we'll lose our edge. The fear is, if I'm not hard on myself, I'll just become a slob on the couch. But you're saying the pressure is actually what's making us sluggish. It's the weight that's slowing us down. It's not the engine, it's the anchor.
The pressure creates friction. It creates heat. It burns you out. Removing the unnecessary expectations is like taking the brakes off. You remove the friction. You glide. You can move faster with less effort. And that right there is the true definition of efficiency.
I love that image. Gliding instead of grinding.
Yes.
Wow. We have covered a lot of ground today. We started with that crushing universal feeling of needing more time. And we realized that the more time argument is a complete fallacy. It's a trap that just keeps us on the hamster wheel.
We looked at the diagnosis. The problem isn't the clock. It's the sheer weight of our expectations. Is the hidden pressure to be everything to everyone, the modern trap of trying to optimize every aspect of life simultaneously.
And the toxic comparison culture that makes us feel like everyone else has it figured out, when in reality, nobody does.
We talked about perfectionism as the ultimate barrier to prioritization. If everything has to be perfect, nothing can be dropped. And we offered the solution: strategic simplification.
The expectation audit. Actively choosing which balls are rubber and letting them bounce so that you can actually hold on to the ones that are made of glass.
The mission was to prove that relief comes from reducing pressure, not increasing productivity. And I think once you really see the impossible math of your own expectations, you can't unsee it. You realize that you've been playing a game that was rigged against you from the start. And the only way to win is to change the rules.
Change the rules like that. Before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought, something to chew on as you go about your week, maybe while you're staring at that impossible to-do list.
Go for it.
We talked about the fantasy of the 2 extra hours. Let's expand that. Imagine you suddenly had 4 extra hours every single day, starting tomorrow, a 28-hour day. But, and this is the key, you didn't change your expectations at all. Honestly, ask yourself, how long would it take before you were just as tired, just as overwhelmed as you are right now? How long before you filled those 4 new hours with more shoulds, more optimizations, more tasks you feel obligated to do? A week? A month? The answer to that question proves that the clock isn't the problem. The pressure is.
And you are the only one who can turn that pressure valve.
That's it for this deep dive. Go audit those expectations. We'll see you next time.
Come on.
us on Coffee Break. If this conversation stayed with you, you can find more episodes here on the channel. Until next time, take care.